One of my favorite ones more recently is at the beginning of last year, my wife and I were in Florida to see our youngest son. He's stationed in the Air Force out there. And while we were gone, a young man visited services with his 3-year-old son. And so the next week we were back in town, and obviously I was preaching, and that young man came back with his son, and this time he had his wife and his wife's sister with him. And so it took me a couple of months to get him into an actual Bible study. And he was like a sponge, just absorbing it all. Everything that I told him, he was just excited to learn, and more and more and more. And we eventually baptized him, and he's on fire. He was asking me just a couple of weeks ago, what does he need to do to evangelize his brother, or to evangelize, to talk to people at work? Where do we start? What do I begin with, and things like that. And about every other Thursday, we go to his home. I go to his home, sometimes just me, sometimes it's me and my wife together. And we've been studying with him, but in more recent studies, his wife and his sister-in-law have also joined us. So through our studies with him, we're really gaining this opportunity to study also with his wife and sister-in-law.
So one makes many, just get out there.
Absolutely. That's how
So
it
tell
works.
us, that's right. Tell us who you are, what your name is, where you're from, and an interesting fact.
So I am Sam Dilbeck. I'm married to my high school sweetheart, Julie. We have two adult sons, Jason and David, and we work with Julie and I work with the church in Brighton, Colorado. As I mentioned, my youngest son lives in Florida, and my oldest son lives in Texas. And so we're all scattered across the United States. And maybe an interesting fact is I wear a lot of flannel. But I spoke at Chapel at Bear Valley this morning, and so I had to wear something better than flannel. So I just hadn't changed my shirt.
You can put the flannel on underneath the shirt.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, as you know about this show, we talk about strategies. So let's get into it. What are some evangelism strategies, even for the person that just became a Christian? That they'd love that you probably told them some strategies that will help people who share their faith bravely.
Well, several years ago, I developed an idea that when you talk to people about evangelism, it seems that they're always afraid of something, one thing or another, and a lot of times it's I'm going to say the wrong thing, or I'm going to alienate people or something like that. So I just started telling people, just say something. Uh, you That's the beginning of evangelism. Say something. And I like that as my mantra. If we're stymied by fear of what others are going to think, or that our friends are going to abandon us, or that our families are going to fight with us, and strangers are just going to look at us awkward and slip away or move away from us, so we don't say anything at all, or we're afraid to say anything. But I'm reminded of Jesus at the well of Samaria, when the Samaritan woman comes, and he says, "Give me something to drink." And we look at that and we say, "Well, that's a pretty simple request," but it was so monumental in that moment, because uh, Jesus defied the very cultural norms, and he spoke to a strange Samaritan woman, and it shocked her. She says, she even asked, "How can you, a man, a Jew, ask me, a Samaritan woman who is a stranger, for water?" But what it did is it started a conversation. And listen, we may not always have that groundbreaking, give me something to drink, but and our opening line may not be that earth shattering, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be magical. It just has to be, to me, sincere and approachable. And in other words, I heard of this was a few generations ago, but I knew the man when he was elderly, and he would knock doors, and he told one man, asked him, when the man opened the door, he said, "What religion are you?" And the man told him, and he made some derogatory comment about that particular religion that man was. And the bad part is yes, he said something, but he didn't say something sincere and approachable. And by sincere, I simply mean you're concerned about him. It was C.S. Lewis that said that you're not going to talk to a mere mortal. Everyone we talk to is immortal. Everyone we talk to has an eternal future. And so approach any situation with that sincerity that says, I want them to be saved.
Right on.
And the idea of approachable is that what you say opens a conversation instead of shuts one down. And so when you're sitting in a ball game with other parents watching your kids, say something. When you're
Take
waiting
them.
at the table, when you're waiting at Chili's for another table to open up, and then there's another group waiting too, say something to them. If you and a stranger are inspecting produce at Kroger's, say something. If your waiter comes to the table, engage them and say something. I don't have any tattoos, but I'm kind of interested in body art, what people put on their body and think that, this needs to be there. And so if a waiter or waitress comes and they have a tattoo on their lower arm or something, I'll always ask, I said, well, what does that mean? Why did you get that or something? Or tell them, that looks nice. That's some good artwork or something. Just engage them and engage them in a way, again, that shows sincerity and approachability.
Right.
Um,
That's good. That's good.
I would say also that sometimes our fears that, we're going to say the wrong thing. And that goes back to that sincerity and approachability. Don't lead off with why you think denominational people are lost and you want to save them. Start by engaging on common ground. And I think that's what Jesus did. He's sitting at a well wanting a drink of water, but he doesn't have anything to draw with. She's coming to the well. She has something to draw with. And so that's the common ground, the well, the water, getting a drink. And he uses that. And if you're both inspecting tomatoes at Kroger, hey, how do you tell it? What's your method of telling the tomato is ripe? If you're at a ball game with other parents and your kids are in Little League, there's a million things that you could say. Hey, do you have any other kids that are playing ball? After ball is over, do y'all, after baseball is over, do you go into Little League football or do you go to soccer, dance or whatever, what other, activities does your daughter do or something like that? Or, and then what's important here is listen to the response. And I oftentimes people who have canned evangelistic methods, they have this one question they always ask. And if the person, answers in this way or this way, they've got a response, ready to go. And to me, that becomes it comes across as forced and insincere. And then, you're not really listening to the response. You're listening for a response. Well, let's quit doing that. Let's listen to the response and then respond back to them accordingly. That's what Jesus did. And I think that's important. And so, follow up on those responses. It's hard to follow up with a meaningful response if you didn't listen to what they said.
Right. Yeah. And I think what's good is when you engage, you also pray. So you might not have an idea of what to say when you're talking.
Mm-hmm.
You might just say, hey, about those tomatoes. But if you're praying that time, then God will work with you if there's an opportunity. Because sometimes there's not going to be an opportunity. You're going to say, how are those tomatoes? And they're going to be like, they're good.
Yeah.
But the
Absolutely.
key is the key is to engage, like to keep trying, to keep talking. That's the key, isn't it?
Some people will shut you down with a 1 or 2 word response and walk away, and that's that's on them. But it doesn't take a long prayer. God, if I'm going to go talk to this person at the tomato section, would you open their heart? I mean, that's all of 5 seconds.
You've been listening to Be Brave. The world right now is a crazy place, and sharing the love of God is the most important thing we can do right now. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit up gobebrave.org. Remember, the love of God is the most powerful force in the universe. Learn how to love like Jesus. See you next time.